In this video, I will be discussing everything there is to know about the Inferno Fiend synergy. That is the new synergy in Season 17 of Magic Chess. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the synergy description. That is how the synergy works. Then I'll be looking at the heroes in the synergy, then the lineups that can be built around the synergy. And then I'll also be looking at actually how to build those lineups, and I'll be ending with some tips and tricks. If you like the video, don't forget to, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to just leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So yeah, let's get into it. Starting with the synergy description. The Inferno Fiend synergy is a 2/4 hero synergy. And what the synergy, with 2 Inferno Fiend, the highest cost Inferno Fiend hero deployed starts with the round with 100 mana. Now you'll see here when 2 Inferno Fiend is active, you have Gord starting with 100% mana. And when 4 Inferno Fiend is activated, you have all the Inferno Fiend heroes start with 100% mana. It's a very simple synergy, nothing too big with the synergy description. Now, let's look at the heroes in the synergy. There are 4 heroes in the synergy. You have Khufra, Thamuz, Tigreal, and Gord. Starting with Khufra. Khufra is a 3 gold wrestler hero, and he is available in the selection stage. He is the only Infernal Fiend hero that is available in the selection stage. And his skill, Bouncing Ball, when activating a Khufra wraps himself in a bouncing ball, gaining control immunity. Right, this bouncing ball here is actually immune to crowd control, and it increases his physical and magic defense by 300 at level 1, 300 at level 2, and 400 at level 3. That is at 3 stars. And each time the ball hits the ground, it will deal damage to all the nearby enemies. So from here, it will deal damage to every hero around him. And the damage is 270, 400, 720 plus 27%, 40%, or 72% total magic power, magic damage. Okay, so it does a fair bit of damage. But what is really most important about this Khufra skill is the defense, right? 400 defense at max level is wild. So yeah, that is all about Khufra. Next we have Thamuz, another 3 gold hero, right? Belongs to the Weapon Master role. And unlike Khufra, Thamuz cannot be obtained in the selection stage. So if you want to build Infernal Fiend, you will probably have to start with Khufra. Now, Thamuz's skill creates a quadrant atmosphere around him. You can see the kind of burning thing around Thamuz himself. That lasts 11 seconds, and it deals 40%, 40%, and 50% of Thamuz's total physical attack every 0.5 seconds. So in total, it does damage 22 times. Now, while the atmosphere is active, his attack speed is increased by 90%, 120%, and 180% at 1 star, 2 star, and 3 stars respectively. And each basic attack from Thamuz would recover 2% HP. So in all, Thamuz's kit is catered towards having very high sustainability with the increase in attack speed and the HP recovery as well. Next we have Tigreal, 4 gold hero, right, guardian hero, and his skill is a very simple one as well. Tigreal unleashes the power of his hammers, all that story, and he charges towards the area with the most enemies. That is one very important thing. Tig dashes towards the square with the most enemies before using his skill. That is one of the things that makes him very, very good right now. So it's really good. It's really good. And it deals 150%, 150% to 70% total physical attack to enemies within 8 tiles and stunning them. Alright, so it does, this is the, you can kind of see the range of the thing. And it stuns them for 2 seconds, 3.5 seconds, and 5 seconds. The stun duration is probably the best part of this skill. 5 seconds, I mean, okay, a 4-star Tig, you may very rarely get that, but a 2-star Tig, 3.5 second stun with, you know, the combination with when you have a 2-star Tig, he's going to be tanky, so he's going to be able to spam this skill. So if you have a hero that doesn't have Purify or CC immunity, Tig would be their worst nightmare if you misposition them. And finally, we have Gord, 5 gold hero, Elementalist, Infernal Fiend, and his skill is, as it's always been, Gord unleashes an energy beam that lasts 3.5 seconds, dealing 600 hits, 80, 100, 1050, and 3500, plus 68%, 105%, 350% total magic power, magic damage every 0.3 seconds to enemies hit. So as you can see, this is just Gord, this very long beam there, dealing a lot of damage. At maximum level, that is a lot of damage, right? Just keep that is a lot of damage at the maximum level. But yeah, that is all the heroes in the Infernal Fiend synergy. Now Gord is definitely the one with the most damage. He's the strongest of all the Infernal Fiend heroes, but not all lineups are built around him. Because Gord is very difficult to obtain, so you can't really build every lineup around him, even though he is the strongest. And so what are these lineups that we can build? That is where we are going to now. We are going to be checking out the lineups for all the possible lineups with the Infernal Fiend synergy. And the Infernal Fiend lineups are built around certain magic crystals, and there are a total of 8 lineups built across 5 magic crystals. These are the magic crystals. Here you have Elementalist magic crystal, Weapon Master, Wrestler, Guardian, and Infernal Fiend. Right, the Infernal Fiend synergy is a magic crystal in itself, and these 4 are the roles in the Infernal Fiend synergy. Oh, it's Infernal Fiend, not Inferno. Oh, okay. The first lineup is built around the Wrestler magic crystal. Now, the Wrestler synergy, this is what it does. The basic attack of Wrestler heroes have a 20%, 35%, and 50% chance to stun enemies for 2.5 seconds. And the basic attack of Wrestler heroes also deals an extra 150, 250, 450 true damage to enemies affected by debuff. So enemies that are stunned, knocked up, that are under any crowd control of any sort, wrestlers do bonus damage to those heroes. Now this wrestler lineup is built around Thamuz, because Thamuz is the one with the attack speed. Khufra doesn't use attack speed, even though he is a wrestler. Tigreal doesn't use attack speed, and neither does Gord. But Thamuz is able to use the attack speed from his kit, and he can use it very well. The wrestler synergy when his skill is active, the stuns, the attack speed, everything just really helps that wrestler synergy. So the Wrestler magic crystal and lineup is built around Thamuz, and the synergy is Wrestler plus Infernal Fiend plus Weapon Master. Yeah, this is Infernal Fiend, not Infernal Fiend, but whatever. And then the next lineup is the Weapon Master lineup. Now the Weapon Master synergy, allied damage dealt by allied heroes, that's 15%, 30%, 70% of damage dealt by allied heroes is converted to HP. And Weapon Masters gain an extra 10%, 20%, and 40% HP regen. Now, this comp is built around Tigreal. Of course, this comp is actually a Thamuz comp. But if we're looking at who is going to wield that magic crystal, then it has to be Tig. And the reason for this is simple, because Tig is able to Tig jumps towards the square with the most enemies. So he's going to do a lot of damage. He has a very wide AoE skill because of that. So he's going to be able to tank a lot when he does a lot of damage with that skill. And so the Weapon Master lineup is built around Tig. And the final lineup is Weapon Master plus Infernal Fiend and the Guardian. The Guardian is just to give Tig a little extra push to help it sustain a bit. Then the next lineup is the Guardian lineup. The Guardian synergy gives allied heroes 100, 200, and 400 HP, while the Guardian heroes themselves gain an extra 20%, 40%, and 80% extra HP. Now this comp is built around Thamuz for obvious reasons. Thamuz already has a kit that gives him a lot of HP regen, but when you add the Guardian synergy, now gives him more HP, so that he becomes more tanky. And in addition to that, you can have the sustain from his kit. And so the Guardian lineup is built around Thamuz with Guardian, Infernal Fiend, and Weapon Master. And finally, we have the Elementalist lineup. Now, Elementalist heroes recover 55 and 65% mana after every skill cast. But the first skill cast in a round with 6 Elementalist recovers 100% mana. This means that Elementalist heroes can cast their first skill like twice in quick succession. And this combo is built around Tigreal because Tig is able to dash to the square with the most enemies. And if you have this in combination with Gord, Gord is going to be able to target his skill at that square. Now, if you have this combo performed twice in quick succession, you could potentially wipe out the enemies before they even have the chance to react. If Tig is able to get into a very sweet spot, and God is also able to use his skill in the right direction. So this is the strongest Inferno Fiend lineup, but it's also the most difficult to build because Gord is 5 gold, Tig is 5 gold, and Tig is 4 gold. And Elementalist is not that easy to build because Gord is 5 gold. So it's not very easy to build. It's the strongest, but it is also very difficult to build. And it is built as Elementalist, Inferno Fiend, and Guardian. Now, those are all the lineups that are available with the Inferno Fiend, that are available around the Inferno Fiend synergy. Now let's look at how exactly do we build these lineups. Now, before we get into that, there's some things that we need to look at. And the first thing is that Khufra is the only Inferno Fiend lineup in the Inferno Fiend hero in the selection stage. Right, every other one belongs to that same, but Khufra is the only Inferno Fiend one. So if you want to build Inferno Fiend, you have to get Khufra. That is the ideal. But the reason why this is not very practical is because activating 2 Inferno Fiend before round 4 is very difficult. And this is because Thamuz is 3 gold, Khufra is 3 gold. That getting those 2 3 gold heroes is going to be very difficult. You're going to need a lot of luck in order to do that. And so activating 2 Inferno Fiend before round 4 is very difficult. And so it is not very practical to try to get the Inferno Fiend synergy before round 4. Now, for those who don't know, if you want to get a magic crystal, you have to trigger the synergy before round 4. Or you have to trigger a synergy. Like, for example, if you trigger the Inferno Fiend synergy before round 4, you could get one of these. You could get one of these 4 synergies as your magic crystal. Well, not 4 actually. You could get one of these 5 as your magic crystal if you trigger, Inferno Fiend on round 4. But because that is impossible, we now have to build the rules instead. So instead of building Inferno Fiend before round 4, say for example you want to build Weapon Master, Inferno Fiend, you want to build a lineup around Tig. You would first have to trigger the Weapon Master synergy before round 4, and then hope to get the Weapon Master Magic Crystal or the Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal. That is the safest approach because it is easy to get 2 Weapon Masters before round 4. It is also easy to get 2 Guardian. It's easy to get 3. Well, it's not easy to get 3 Elementalists, but it's easier than trying to get 2 Inferno Fiend. And it's also easy to get 2 Wrestler. So that is why it's the safest approach. But the problem is that, say for example, you want to build Weapon Master Inferno Fiend and you activate Weapon Master before round 4. There's nothing guaranteeing, there's nothing necessitating that you're going to get either Weapon Master or Inferno Fiend. For example, if you trigger Weapon Master, you could get Nature Spirit, because that is still related to Weapon Master. You could get Northern Adventurer, you could get Immortals. Like, there's so many other things you can get. So that is why it's still the safest approach, but it also doesn't guarantee that you'll get the Magic Crystal. So you just have to hope for the best. Those are just the limitations of playing with Inferno Fiend in general. Now, the starting heroes will be used to build the rules. Now, like I said, that is the ideal. We're going to be building the rules instead of trying to build the Inferno Fiend lineup. So to do that, we have these 5 starting heroes. You have Luo Yi, Dyrroth, Ruby, Belerick, and Khufra. So depending on which one you want to build, if you want to build Guardian, you start with Belerick. If you want to build Wrestler, you can start with Dyrroth or Khufra. If you want to build Weapon Master, you start with Ruby. And if you want to build Elementalist, you start with Luo Yi. We're going to be looking at each and every one of them. Starting with, well, before that, let's look at the Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal itself. This Magic Crystal is built around the selected 3 gold heroes except Khufra. Now this is because Khufra already has that Inferno Fiend faction. So you can't really build around it. So instead, for when you want to build a wrestler lineup, but you get the Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal, you build it around Guinevere or Catcher. Now, if for example you pick Luo Yi and you pick the Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal, that means that you will build the Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal, Inferno Fiend synergy to the maximum level, but Luo Yi's role and Luo Yi's faction will build to just the minimum level or just an acceptable level. What I mean by acceptable level is, if it's a 2-4-6 lineup, you can probably build it to 4 instead of just 2. But if it's 3-6, you only have the option of building 3. That's what it means by minimum or acceptable level. So that is just, if you pick the Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal. Now, the first thing is, if you pick Dyrroth or Khufra in the selection stage, the first step is to trigger 2 wrestlers with Cho before round 4, of course. And then you pick either the wrestler or Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal. Now, with the Wrestler Magic Crystal, if you pick the Wrestler Magic Crystal, the next thing is to deploy these 4 heroes, Dyrroth, Khufra, Yuzhong, and Cho. Then, at Commander level 6, you add Thamuz and Martis. And then at Commander level 7, you add Guinevere. And finally, adding Guinevere will trigger 6 Wrestler here. And then you can then trigger 4 Inferno Fiend by adding Tigreal and Gord at Commander level 9. But if you pick the Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal, the first thing would be to deploy these 4 heroes, Dyrroth, Khufra, Yuzhong, and Cho. Then the next step would be to add Thamuz and Lolita at Commander level 6. The reason for adding Lolita is because you want to build with Quartermaster. That is why we are still adding Guinevere later. That is why at Commander level 6 you add Thamuz and Lolita to the comp. And then at Commander level 7 you add Tigreal, and that would that would get to Inferno Fiend. And then you get 4 Inferno Fiend actually. Adding Tigreal at Commander level 7 will get 4 Inferno Fiend. And then at Commander level 9, you just add Guinevere and Catcher, and you will have 6 Wrestler complete. Now, if you want to build with, that's all about Dyrroth, that's if you want to build Wrestler Inferno Fiend. Now, if you want to build Weapon Master Inferno Fiend, your starting hero is going to be Ruby, and the first thing it will be to add either Grok, Martis, or Benedetta to trigger 2 Weapon Masters. And that is before round 4. And then you pick the Weapon Master or Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal. Now, if you pick the Weapon Master Magic Crystal, the first step would be to deploy Ruby, Martis, Benedetta, and Grok. All those 4 heroes, just deploy all 4 of them. And then when you add Thamuz, you would then complete 6 Weapon Master. Now, at Commander level 6, you then add Akai, because you're still going to build Guardian later on. So that is why you're adding Akai, just to get the Guardian started. Then at Commander level 7, you add Tigreal to the lineup. That will trigger 2 Guardian and 2 Inferno Fiend. And then you can complete 4 Inferno Fiend by adding Khufra and Gord. And that is all about that lineup. Now, but if you pick the Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal, then the next step would be to deploy Ruby, Martis, Benedetta, and Grok. And then you'd add Angela and Thamuz. That would trigger 2 aspirants with Ruby and Angela. And then Thamuz would trigger 2 Inferno Fiend. Now that's what would happen at Commander level 6. Now when you get to Commander level 7, you add Khufra. That would be 3 Inferno Fiend, but that will not be very ideal. So at that Commander level 7 still, after adding Khufra, you then replace Grok with Tigreal. When you replace Grok with Tigreal, that will reduce the Weapon Masters from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will then reduce the Weapon Masters to 4. So you'd have 4 Weapon Masters and 4 Inferno Fiend if you add Khufra and then replace Grok with Tigreal at Commander level 7. And so to complete 6 Weapon Masters from here, you just have to add Leo Mod and Alucard. And so that's all about how to build the Weapon Master Inferno Fiend lineup. Now if you want to build Guardian Inferno Fiend, your starting hero is going to be Belerick. And the first step would be to trigger 2 Guardians with Akai. Then you pick either the Guardian or Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal. If the Guardian Magic Crystal is your choice, then the first step would be to deploy Belerick, Hilda, Lolita, and Akai. After which you will deploy Thamuz and Martis. The reason for deploying Thamuz and Martis is because these 2 would trigger 2 Weapon Master, on their own. And since Thamuz is the core of the lineup, you want to get that Weapon Master in there. And then at Commander level 7, you add Tigreal. This would then trigger 6 Guardian with these 4, and then Tigreal and the Magic Crystal. And then the final step is just to add Khufra and Gord, and then you have your full lineup complete. But if the Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal is your choice, then The first step is still to deploy Belerick, Hilda, Lolita, and Akai. That would just be 4 Guardians. And then the next thing would be to add Sylvana and Thamuz. The reason for adding this would trigger 2 Inferno Fiend, right, with Thamuz and the Crystal. Now, the reason for adding Sylvana is because our core is actually going to be Hilda. But not the Hilda doesn't have to be the core carry, but we're going to be building her faction up because it's just good. We can't build NS up. I'm personally not a fan of building Nature Spirit as 3, especially if there won't be Weapon Master, like especially if it won't be like 6 Weapon Masters at once. So that is why we're building around Hilda as opposed to Belerick. So at commander level 6, you add Thamuz and Sylvana. This would trigger like 2 Inferno Fiend, and then you have 2 Northern Adventurer with these 2. Now at commander level 7, you replace Akai with Tig, and then you add Khufra. That would trigger 4 Inferno Fiend. Right, when you add Khufra and then replace Akai with Tig. If you replace Akai with Tig, you're still going to have your 4 Guardians complete. And now at the maximum level at commander level 9, you then add Leomord and Aurora, and that will complete 4 Northern Adventurers. Or another option that I didn't put here is that instead of adding Leomord and Aurora to complete 4 Northern Adventurers, you can add Akai and Minotaur. That would complete 6 Guardian instead of 4 Guardian. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Instead of adding Leomord and Aurora, you can add Akai and Minotaur. But you can just use Leomord and Aurora. That's actually my recommended, because Leomord is going to then equip these Guardians. You can equip the Guardian Synergy on Leomord for just better use, I guess. And finally, if you want to build the Elementalist lineup, you start with Luo Yi, and the first step would be to trigger 3 Elementalists with 2 of Angela, Kaja, and Eudora. This is fairly difficult because it's 2 heroes, right? Unlike the other ones that you only have to deploy 1 extra hero, for this one you have to deploy 2 extra heroes. So it's fairly difficult, but it's still okay. And so the next step would be to pick, after triggering the 3 Elementalists, the next step would be to pick either the Elementalist or Inferno Fiend Magic Crystal. And if you pick the Elementalist Magic Crystal, the first step would be to deploy Luo Yi, Eudora, Kaja, and Angela. Right? And then after that, you deploy Thamuz and Khufra at commander level 6. This would trigger 2 Inferno Fiend immediately. Then at commander level 7, you add Lunox. That would be 6 Elementalists. That would trigger your 6 Elementalists by adding Lunox here directly. Now, because Gord is our main carry, we are still going to have to do some replacement therapy. So after adding Lunox, that will complete 6 Elementalists. You then have to add Tigreal and another Guardian. When you do that at commander level 9, let's assume you add Tig and Mino at commander level 9. Yeah, we still need to put Gord there, so that's where you now replace Angela with Gord. You can replace Angela with Gord whenever you get Gord. Just replace Angela with Gord whenever you get him. And that is just how to build the Elementalist Magic. That's how to build if you have the Elementalist Magic Crystal. If you pick the Infernal Fiend Magic Crystal, then the first step would be to do this is really like the most difficult overall in terms of like building. This is the most difficult overall. And the first step, of course, is to deploy Luo Yi, Eudora, Kaja, and Angela. The 4 heroes in the Elementalist synergy, like just these 4. And then the next step would be to add Yuzhong and Akai. Doing this would trigger 3 Kedia Riverlands with Luo Yi. So these 3 would trigger 3 Kedia Riverlands. And then still at commander level 6, you will replace Kaja with Thamuz. That way, the number of Elementalists will reduce from 4 to 3. And you will then have 2 Infernal Fiend there. And you can even like put the Infernal Fiend Crystal on Luo Yi at this point. And then at commander level 8, you add Tig and Khufra. That would then trigger 4 Infernal Fiend at commander level 8. Then from here, this is actually the final level of the lineup. From here, it's only replacement therapy. So you just have to replace Angela with Lunox, and then you replace Khufra with Gord. The reason we're replacing Khufra is because here we already have Thamuz, Tig, Khufra, and then an Infernal Fiend Magic Crystal. That's 4 Infernal Fiend already. So we just have to remove Khufra because Thamuz is more valuable than Khufra, let's be honest. So to get 4 Infernal Fiend, we just replace Khufra with Gord. So the final synergy here would be something like 4 Inferno Fiend, 3 Elementalist, 3 Tigreal Riverlands, and I believe 2 Guardian as well with Akai and Tig. Yeah, and so that's just how to build all the lineups. Before we end the video, let's just check some tips and tricks, because the first thing, of course, is the blessings. The new blessing mechanic, or not new, the blessing mechanic has returned to the game, and it's going to affect how we build everything. So these are the blessing priorities. Like, just try to get these blessings on your heroes to build the lineup properly. So when you are building with the wrestler lineup and you pick the wrestler magic crystal, Thamuz can get any blessing because, you know, Thamuz is the actual core of the lineup. Khufra can get any blessing because he is both a wrestler and an immortal fiend and an infernal fiend. Then for wrestler heroes, if they're going to get any blessing, they must get a role blessing, while infernal fiend heroes must get a faction blessing to, you know, help the building. And if you pick the infernal fiend magic crystal, Khufra can get any blessing, Gwen can get any blessing. The wrestler heroes must get rule blessings, the quartermaster heroes must get faction blessings, and the infernal fiend heroes must also get faction blessings. Now, if you are building the weapon master lineup and the weapon master magic crystal is your choice, Thamuz can get any blessing, Tig can get any blessing, the weapon master heroes must always get the rule blessing, and the infernal fiend heroes must get the faction blessings. While if the infernal fiend magic crystal is your choice, Thamuz can get any blessing, Ruby can get any blessing, the weapon master heroes must get role blessings, aspirant heroes must get faction blessings, and infernal fiend heroes as well must get faction blessings. Then when you are building Guardian lineup and Guardian magic crystal is your choice, then Tig and Thamuz can get any blessing, Guardian heroes must get rules, infernal fiend must get factions. While if the infernal fiend magic crystal is your choice, Tig and Hilda can get any blessing, the Guardian heroes must get rule blessings, and Northern Adventurer and infernal fiend must get faction blessings. And finally, with Elementalist, the Elementalist magic crystal, Gord and Tig can get any blessing, the Elementalist heroes must get rule blessings, and the infernal fiend heroes must get faction blessings. While if the infernal fiend magic crystal is the choice, Gord and Luo Yi can get any blessing, the Elementalist heroes must get rule blessings, and the Tigreal Riverlands and the infernal fiend heroes must get faction blessings. Now, if you get the wrong blessing, say for example an Elementalist hero goes and gets a faction blessing, you can sell that hero and try to get the right blessing. Maybe you can shift the blessing from the wrong one to one of these two. Preferably try to get one of your blessing on any of these two heroes. Any blessing is going to do, right? If God gets Infernal Fiend or Elementalist, it's good. If Luo Yi gets Tigreal or Elementalist, it's good. And so here is the recommended builds for the Infernal Fiend heroes, assuming that your Infernal Fiend synergy is triggered to the maximum level. For Khufra and Tig, we're looking at the tank build. We just have Blade Armor, Dominant Eyes, and Guardian Helmet. Very simple stuff. With Thamuz is an attack speed set, has his claws, attack speed, and sustain. To add to Thamuz's sustain. You got Haz's Claws, Demon Hunter Sword, and Golden Staff. And for Gord, you got Glowing Wand, Concentrated Energy, and Blood Wings. There's no Enchanted Talisman because Gord already starts with full mana. So you just focus more on damage and all that. And for my recommended positioning, I'd recommend just Tig and... If you remember from the positioning video, once these two squares are occupied, the other squares are pretty much safe. So you just have Thamuz here, Tig here. Khufra is going to block any heroes coming from this side with his bouncing ball. Very strong stuff. And Thamuz is going to block anybody coming from here. Tig is here because Tig is going to dash anyway. He's going to dash towards the enemies anyway. So you don't really... Tig's positioning doesn't really matter. You can put him anywhere. And so yeah, this is recommended position. And God is here, stationed here. But God's positioning can change from here to either this corner or this corner. I would recommend putting him either here, or this corner, or this corner. Depending on how safe you want him to be. And finally, before we call it a video, let's look at some commander skills. Harper skill 1 is my personal favorite, actually. It doesn't really help you do anything. It just reduces damage taken, so it helps you survive longer in the game. And I love this because a lot of time, especially when I don't really know what I want to do, I don't want to get knocked out before the idea comes to me. So I love using Harper skill 1 in this kind of situation because I can just relax. I just play as I want. I won't have the time to like build my interest steadily. Even when I know what to do, right, I still like playing with Harper skill 1 because there's no pressure on building your comp. You just save your gold steadily and just go. So I would really recommend playing with Harper skill 1, as you know, you can just use that as your first time playing the comp. You just use Harper skill 1 and just enjoy. Then Remy skill 3 and Eggy skill 1, these two skills can be used to upgrade your commander level quickly, because Inferno Fiend is actually a very high level comp. I mean high level in the sense that the heroes are relatively expensive. So having Remy skill 3 or Eggy skill 1 or any other commander skill that actually helps you get gold can be used to upgrade your commander level quickly. And that would be very good for the Elementalist lineups, or even the Guardian lineups actually. The lineups that are built more around the heavier heroes, right? These two skills will be very good for those lineups. Then we have Rhea skill 3. This is the best. This is the most highly recommended skill. If Harper skill 1 is my favorite, this is the best. And the biggest advantage of it is that you can get a blessing on a required hero. Now remember when I said that blessings, some heroes you can get any blessing on them, either faction or role, while some are restricted. You must either get a role or a faction. Now, if you have Rhea skill 3, you can dictate which hero you want to get the blessing. So you can always get the blessing on a required hero. And another advantage is that you can then get a third blessing, because right now you can get a maximum of 2 blessings in a game. But with Rhea skill 3, you can get a third one if you use it at the right time anyway. And so that is why Rhea skill 3 is just the best commander skill to use. And my last recommendation is Fanny skill 3. It does the same thing as Rhea skill 3 essentially. It gives you an extra space, although not as a blessing, and it also speeds up the building process, right? Those comps that need many heroes, but let's say a comp that needs 7 heroes but you only have commander level 6, you can easily use Fanny skill 3 to build it. So it's very good for wrestler actually. It's very good for the lineups that are built around Thamuz, because you can then get extra HP from the hero on the launch, and that would be very, very good for Thamuz. So that's why I would highly recommend Fanny skill 3. Now that is the end of the video. If there are any questions, just leave them in the comments. I will try my best to answer them. I hope the video was, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it was I hope you explained a lot. Okay, so yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.